Good evening, lamb chops. It's me, your favorite fluffy vampire Bloom. Oh, hi. Looking forward to chapter. Things are really wrapping up. Yeah, they are. Let's see, where exactly did we leave off? See, Keiichi went to school, but has decided he's gonna fight for his life. But he's still kind of huffing a lot of that copium. Every now and then he swings back to, I'm misunderstanding. I don't know. He said something about trying to get the baseball bat that's at the school. So I'm sure that's what we'll be doing. Okay. And continue. Ready for more copium? I'm fine. He's finally preparing himself for what's to come. Exactly. This was the first time I had ever woke up with such clarity. It was 5:59, just moments before my alarm would go off. I was amazed at the precision of my internal clock. I had made preparations for the next day of school before I went to bed. I changed quickly and descended the deserted lower floor. It appeared that my mom was still asleep. Neither breakfast nor lunch was ready. Yesterday, I just unliterally declared that I would be leaving early today, so it couldn't be helped. I slathered jam on some bread and topped it in the instant cocoa. Dude, that sounds delicious. I've never thought to do that. I don't know. Just as I was finishing up breakfast, Mom rose groggily from her slumber. My Keiichi, you're up early. Is there some sort of a school event? Not really. Answering bluntly, I picked up my bag and stood after stuffing 2 slices of bread down my throat. Oh, that was the other thing that happened. He wrote that note and hid it in his room. Can I get some copium? My whole body is really hurting. Aw. Just gotta tell yourself it doesn't hurt. Exactly. That's how you copium. You're leaving already? What about lunch? If you don't wait a bit, I can't make it. If I waited for her to make my lunch, then it would end up being the same time as usual. If I did that, it would raise the chances of me running into Reina or Mion on the way. Yes, from today onwards, I was gonna be going to school alone. I'll be fine today. Then what will you do for lunch? I'll slip out and buy some bread or something at the store. Really? Then here's some lunch money. Be sure to bring me back the receipt. Mom asking for receipts. Oh yeah, I was worried his parents by talking about the clock. Yeah. I took the 1,000-yen bill from Mom and slipped it into my pocket. It's pretty early. Is Reina-chan up this early as well? Just me. Did you tell Reina-chan you were leaving early? I got no reason to tell her every little detail now, do I? Finding it difficult answering these onslaught of questions, I made an annoyed face. Tell Reina that I went ahead when she comes. Hey, Keiichi, wait! It's not that I didn't trust my parents. It's just I couldn't rely on them. They couldn't help me. I could only hope that they didn't get involved. You feel relieved. My mom's annoying voice was cut off by the slam of the door. For the first time since I moved here, I headed down the road to school alone. Up until now, I had always walked down the same path, the same time each day. So I always met the same people at the same places. But today was different. I didn't meet the people I would normally do, and nobody was at the places where I would normally meet them. Of course, Reina wasn't at the spot where she usually met me, and there wasn't anyone's spot where I would have met up with Mion. The length of the tree shadows, the morning air, the brightness of the sun, it was a completely different type of morning from what I'm used to. Without a doubt, it felt strange. It left me with the impression that I had destroyed the illusion Hinamizawa had set up for before me, and had enough time to prepare all these props instead to deceive me. My, Keiichi-kun, you're up so early today. Is everyone meeting early this morning? The person who called out was someone who always passed by as we were taking the walk around the edge of the fields. Their name was, I forgot. Of course, this wasn't the spot where we usually passed each other. I woke up early, so I thought it would be a good change of pace. That's all. I threw out some random excuse. What about Reina-chan, Mion-chan? Are you by yourself today? It's not like I'm trusting you, Mom, but I'm not trusting you. Well, yeah. I was being asked the same type of questions by my mom that was asking, so I answered them the same uninterested, vague manner. It wasn't funny being asked where Reina was each time I passed by someone, but maybe it was to be expected. It was because for so long we were always talking so amicably. Even I felt that I left my guard down, we could still be Stop it, Keiichi. Don't think about that anymore. You spent all day yesterday thinking about how dangerous it was to go soft, didn't you? Beep, 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 beep. Car horn blared out of nowhere. Even though I was walking, lost in thought, that horn was way too close. A mechanical behemoth barreled at me from behind, catching me completely off guard. By the time I turned around, the van's bulking chassis was almost on top of me. I'd seen plenty of cars veer to the opposite shoulder to avoid pedestrians, but this car was doing the opposite. It felt like there was somebody on the opposite shoulder, and the van was steering in my direction to avoid them. Can't tell if the people are being genuinely curious or if they're in on it. Yeah, exactly. That blissful, ignorant train of thought delayed me from realizing something much, much more important. The large mass was hurtling right at me. Was it gonna hit me? The inside of my head instantly flooded with a painfully cold liquid. In that moment, the scene before me, no, time itself had frozen. In the silence of that frozen moment, I compared the van so close that I had no way to dodge it, and my body, the upper half twisted awkwardly in order to look behind me. There was no way I could dive out of the way in my current position. If I lost focus now, this moment would unpause, and I would probably be plowed over, caught in this silly pose. Bend my upper body over towards the paddy by the side of the road. If I bent far enough, I'd get away with just being hit by the side mirror. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, the temporal stasis had shattered, deafening sound of the van. The side mirror struck my shoulder, sending me spinning off the air in a top, locked in my contorted position. Sent tumbling through the air, I crashed into the muddy paddy on the side of the road. My entire body was soiled and drenched, but the choice I had made was instant and unmistakably the best. I was covered in mud, and when the alternative was being hit by a car, it was the closest I could do to be unscathed. Rising out of the paddy, I had enough in me to glare over at the stopped van and yell profanities at the driver. I'm not sure if he was able to see me, but the van sped off suddenly. Wait, damn it! This was what they call a hit and run, wasn't it? I couldn't help but continue yelling out profanities. The disgrace from being covered in mud hurt me more than the physical wounds. I slogged through the muddy paddy and made my way back to the road. This is a crime, goddammit! Shit. Track you down and sue you. If I go looking for a van, I'm sure to find it in this little village. The path I was on, the rice paddies on the other side, and had become so narrow that one car could barely fit. It wasn't a place you could tear full speed down in a car, let alone past pedestrians. Not only was it a narrow road, but the car just now was closer to my side than the road than anyone then passed me. Even as I cursed, I was desperately trying to surpass the dark cloud coiling within me. This wasn't just a hit and run. That car just now. Was it trying to run me over, wasn't it? Thinking back, I did feel like there had been a car creeping up on me slowly for a while. That's right. As soon as I had parted ways with that person taking a walk, I had a feeling the whole time. If I had wanted to pass me, then there had no shortage of chances. Normally, I would have felt suspicious and turned around sooner. But I was lost in thought, and now was kicking myself for not realizing it sooner. And then, when the path became narrow and there was nowhere else in sight, he floored it. If I had hesitated for even a moment, the result would have been no laughing matter. As the adrenaline rush from nearly being run over subsided, the realization just now terrifying that the preceding events were sunk in. There was no doubt in it. The van was intentionally trying to hit me. A cold, vicious sweat seeped in my scalp and slid down my back before dribbling off. I struggled to avoid falling into a panic. There was still the possibility that this was really just an accident. Calm down, Keiichi. But also, don't be so naive, Keiichi. Being that lax will get you killed next time. You need to always be on your toes. Don't give them any openings. If my enemy was really out to kill me, then next time, they would just use a more reliable method. If that time came and I was acting like I was now, I being covered in mud was the price I paid for my own naivete. Covered in mud, but without injury. Not even a sprain. I guess this is what you would call the silver lining. I began walking again, this time cautiously. I wouldn't even show a hint of carelessness. I had suspected only Reina and the others until now. No. It was because I had suspected them that I had believed that there was no other enemies. Oishi-san, he said so, didn't he? There was a possibility that all the families in the village were involved. Was I really mired so deeply in this situation that I had no choice but to try and carry on as usual? Wouldn't it be safest to just hold myself up in the house? But the moment I abandoned my regular routine, everyone around me would abandon theirs as well. This was just too horrifying of a thought. I recalled the tales Oishi-san told me of when Hinamizawa was still called Onikakushi. A frightening tale of the entire village of demons hunting their prey, surrounding them, and eating them alive. One must not interfere with demons. One must pretend not to see it. The enemy were numerous, the entire village family. The villagers and their unwavering faith in the curse would do nothing to help me. The strong sudden flash of sunshine made me slightly dizzy. I had no idea what was going on anymore. When I suspected it was the work of man, I would catch a glimpse of Yashiro-sama's curse. And when I suspected it was Yashiro-sama's curse, someone would poke their head out. Good morning, Jose! What was coincidence? What was intentional? Who was my enemy? Who was just a bystander? No, what really, truly wanted to know was, how did I end up being the proverbial bullseye painted on my back? Eventually an answer in the form I could understand will appear. I don't care what will happen, because until then, I cannot die. That alone fueled my resolve to fight, and keep me alive. I remembered seeing the metal bat in the gym storage shed, but there was a padlock on the door barring my entry. At the very least, I wanted to get my hands on it before everyone else arrived at school. I circled around the school grounds impatiently. But all I could find were things like pieces of lumber, nothing that could bring into the classroom easily. Then, I had an epiphany. I sensed shirts inside the classroom. If it was something in the classroom to begin with, then there wouldn't be a problem. I could tell that everyone's indoor shoes were still in their lockers. Good thing I came early. Nobody else was here yet. I wondered, what could I find in the classroom? I didn't think I could find an especially effective weapon like a bat, but it couldn't be helped at this point. Until the gym storage shed was open, I needed to find a substitute. A lingering hint of naivete whispered that there was no way I'd be attacked at school. But such soft ideas would no longer protect me. To think that they were slowly making their way into parts of my life that I had once thought impenetrable. In the worst case, my own house might not be safe anymore. This was an incredibly frightening thought, but I believed that not considering the worst case scenario would have been even more frightening. Anyways, I will survive. So long as I lived, then I will definitely not be able to escape this labyrinth of nonsense. Definitely. Yeah, gonna be weird when Keishi's at school covered in mud before everyone else. My exploration of the classroom came to an impasse. That much was to be expected. There was no way there could be anything like a weapon in the classroom. In case of emergency, there was probably nothing I could do but swing my own chair around. My gaze landed on the lockers that had come to unused for personal storage. The locker that Mion used to store her pile of games was among them. There was one for each person in the class, all lined up. Of course, there was one for me as well. You could say something like, I fell down in the mud. I mean, yeah. Still weird, though. Oh yeah, there was supposed to be still a tracksuit in my locker. Seeing me covered in mud would be strange. I should go change. But first I need a weapon. When one of my classmates came, it would be hard to rummage through all the lockers. Swiftly, I began opening the lockers one by one. They were mostly filled with just things like gym clothes, personal items, umbrellas. An umbrella. Grabbing food. Good chance. If I couldn't find anything better, this would have to be my weapon. I mean, it's a good weapon. Have you seen another? I was about to give up finding anything decent when I opened the locker that held exactly what I wanted. It was without a doubt a metal bat. It was well worn and pretty beat up, but there was no doubt it was usable. In that locker that reeked of mold, there was also hung a baseball uniform. It was probably the locker of a student, in a Pee-wee league or something like that. If that was the case, then he'd probably ask for it back. At that time, I could hear the voices of the children scuffling their way noisily into the hallway. Amongst them, I could make out Rika-chan and Satoko. Good morning.
My, you're quite early this morning, Keiichi.
I nonchalantly hid the bat that I was holding behind my back.
What is with your outfit? You're covered in mud.
Yeah, I had a little incident. I'm gonna go change now, so cut me some slack. With that said, I began taking off my clothes. Satoko began to blush just as I expected her to.
Changing in front of a lady? Have you no tact at all?
I would think that the lady staring at someone who was changing would be more lacking in tact. There's no changing room for the boys, so just deal with it. As Satoko feigned in disgust, she went into the hall, still blushing. Conversely, Rika-chan continued to stare at me, preparing to change. If Rika-chan is a lady as well, then I don't think it would be appropriate for you to be watching.
I'm not a lady, so it's fine.
She deliberately pouted and looked at me with upturned eyes. Then, starting now, you're a lady.
If I'm a lady, then I suppose I must.
Rika-chan appeared to be satisfied with being considered a lady and made her way to join Satoko in the hallway. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, Rika-chan stopped suddenly and turned back towards me. Are you going to start playing baseball? It seems that Rika-chan had noticed the bat. Yeah, just, I was feeling a bit out of shape, so I thought I'd just try practicing my swing. I think it's wonderful you're taking care of your health. She was talking like an old lady, despite her appearance. Back, did I miss much? No. Satoko and Rika-chan came in. We embarrassed Satoko, of course. She left us alone to change. And Rika said, I can watch you change, I'm not a lady. And so we've just been trying to convince her to leave the classroom so I can put on my tracksuit so I'm not muddy. Please don't lose that bat. It seems sure you knew I took it out of someone's locker. There was no name on the locker door. I didn't know whose bat it was, but it would be borrowing it until they complained. It wouldn't be for long, just until the gym storage shed was open. After quickly changing into my tracksuit, I checked the time. I still had plenty of time before class began because I came so early. I took the bat in one hand and went out of the schoolyard. That was, of course, to practice my swing. I needed to make it known that I'd always have a bat on me so I could prepare just my swing. At some point, the sunlight had become even stronger. Disregarding my classmates as they made their way to school, I took my position in the shadow of the school building. I wasn't the academic type, and I wasn't much of an athlete either. I might get muscle pain if I just suddenly started swinging. I should at least start with some warm-ups. I doubt anyone would think I was doing something out of the ordinary, which is the exact opposite of my actual mental state. I gripped the bat and swung lightly. The bat was by no means light. The weight would make it a reliable weapon when I needed it to be. Of course, I could only pray that the moment I needed to use it as a weapon would never come. Just carrying it around to defer attacks against me. At least that's what I had hoped.
Huh? Kei-chan? What are you doing?
Being bombarded with such a hysterical voice, I jumped. Whoa, Keiichi-kun. Are you on the baseball team? The baseball team. It was Reina and Mion. I was surprised when I heard you went off ahead. What are you doing, Kei-chan? Can't you tell by looking? I'm practicing my swing for the championship. You can say it's part of my diet if you want. Diet? Kei-chan, are you really that fat? Bet you didn't know. I actually have a beer belly. It's plump and jiggles. Plump and jiggles? Reina, you don't have to imagine something so weird like that. To disrupt Reina from imagining something that vulgar, I ruffled her hair messily. Well then, hope you make it to regionals at least. This old man will cheer you on. Regionally speaking, it seems that Oshima High is pretty strong. Hamada-kun is amazing. Good luck. Seems they made me as some kind of local prodigy, but oh well. Well, if I really did make it a championship, it would be a cinch. After all, I'd be the pitcher and the catcher. I'd pitch the ball, then run past the ball just as I threw it to charge over being the catcher in a burst of super incredible explosive speed. I laughed dryly at the ludicrous image. Coming back to my senses, I smashed the bat against the ground. Damn it! What am I laughing at? I pounded the ground over and over. With each impact, the reverberating traveling through the bat and stung my hands. They make me smile like that. I'll... Don't allow anyone close to me. Don't trust anyone. No matter how many times I tell myself that, if they make me smile like that, I'll... already knew quite well that there was demons dwelling in these smiling friends. Yo, what's up with it? But I just couldn't believe it. That kind of split personality really exists. Like how Reina confessed to the doctor. Were they simply being possessed by Yashiro-sama? Hope I at least get to regionals and defending myself, yeah. Yashiro-sama really exists, and it was possessing everyone and trying to kill me? Yeah, that would be wonderful. If only everyone were actually my friends all along and everything was just Oyashiro-sama's fault. You damned fool, Kaiichi Maibara. Come on now. I yelled out, drawing out the power from the pit of my stomach and raised the bat violently into the air. Stop being so soft! As I screamed out in my might, I beat the metal bat to the ground over and over. With every impact, my weakness was being beaten down. Smash. Forget. Smash. Don't be soft. Smash. Know your enemy. Smash. Like hell I'd let them kill me. My shoulders heaving up and down from my ragged breathing. I heard the first bell ring just as I calmed down. I gasped with sudden realization. That was the final bell. As I felt all the tension drain from me, I let out a deep breath. My mind was in a muddled state for much of the entire day. I didn't feel like I was awake, but I didn't feel like I was asleep either. I couldn't say it felt especially comfortable, but I felt kind of relief that the sanctity of the school and part of my daily life had yet to be violated. Safe. How long would I have to keep living like this? I could only grit my teeth and bear with it as this living hell slowly gnawed away at me.
Keiichi-kun, come on! It's club time!
The sound of Reina's voice brought me back to my senses.
Come on, Keiichi-chan! Stop spacing out!
Bring your desk! Everyone was moving their desks together as usual. That's right. It was happy, fun club time. But I had no intention of taking part. I haphazardly stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag and I prepared to go home. It was a weak-handed gesture to avoid having to actually say, I'm going home now. What's this, Kei-chan? You planning on going home right away again? Mion sounded quite disappointed. I'm just not in the mood. Could you just let me be for a while? The tone of my words had spilled from my mouth, matched Mion's disapproving glare. It felt like the air in the room had dried out. Satoko looked like she was about to say something, but perhaps dissuaded by the mood, she swallowed her words and stayed silent. Nobody said a thing. I took that to mean that I could leave if I wanted, but the collective gaze of the four of them, like tiny pins used to mount an insect on display, held me in place. Reina was the one who cut through the heavy mood.
Ichi-kun, you just didn't like playing with girls, I guess.
She said in such a melancholic tone that it sent me a wave of pain racing through my heart. If this pain was going to kill me, I wanted it to be the soft part of me, and I could still feel pain. I tore at my chest, violently tearing out the pins that held me in place. That's not it at all. I'd only be hurting myself if saying anything more, so I swallowed the words. Cutting things off here, I turned away and exited the classroom. They didn't speak a word to me as I left. It was a long, dull trip back home, but I didn't lose focus. Reina trying to guilt trip, right? I firmly squeezed the grip of the bat, which was already soggy from sweat. Realizing that, I wiped it down with my sleeve. If something were to happen, I wouldn't want it to be slippery. It was super effective. Since this morning, I'd become especially sensitive to the presence of cars. Even while walking, my ears pricked up and sought out threatening sounds and presence that could be seen closing in. And that was why I could hear it. Without a doubt, there were footsteps. Those footsteps hadn't matched up perfectly with mine for a while now. From what I could sense, it was just one person, but I had no intention of being careless. Did they intend to follow me like that, the car, this morning, until they were in a good location and then assault me? Then it wasn't a good idea to keep walking like this. I stopped walking and looked back. The wooded path crowded with trees responded with silence, as if there was nobody there to begin with. But I couldn't be fooled. I was certain footsteps were following. And just as I stopped, the footsteps stopped. Meaning, this person following me wanted to keep their distance. That was without question proof that I was their target. I held my breath, waiting for that presence to panic and start moving again. The trees rustled with the sound of the wind. The Higurashi also joined in a dissonant chorus, trying to throw out my focus into disarray. Had 5 minutes passed? Or had it been like this for a whole 30 minutes? It was so hard to breathe that I might have suffocated. It seemed I would be the first one to panic. Without a doubt, he was lurking in the shade of that tree, that bated breath. Then, I'd make the first move. I fixed my grip on the bat. I raised it up on my shoulder and ready to swing it any moment. Hey, I know you're there. With all my might, I screamed at whoever was hiding in the shade of the trees. But the presence in the shade didn't budge. Until the moment I found them, they had no intention of revealing themselves. I know already. I know you're there. I screamed out angrily at them again, but even still they didn't move. Then I'll go over there myself. With all due vigilance, I approached, step by step. Stepping into the tree shadow, I saw a human figure there. That figure was curled up like a small animal. Reina! When she realized I'd found her expression softened. She seemed apologetic, but wasn't going to speak a word. Did you have business with me? I wouldn't accept that silence, and screamed the question at her.
Nah, really, I just,
Reina was in a panic, with tears welling up in her eyes, but it was obvious that she had been following me. What about Club?
Since you're not, I'm not.
That shouldn't matter. Don't you mind me? Just go play.
But I'm worried about you.
Thinking about how I'd been acting up until now, it wasn't hard to imagine that my behavior could be perceived as strange. So Reina was concerned, and at a quick glance that's how it would seem. But I wasn't going to let my guard down that easily. Even if it was really the case, she still wouldn't have something like that to try and tail me. She would have just called out to me when I was leaving and gone out right with me. But Reina didn't do that. She kept her distance from me and matched my walking speed. And on top of that, she matched the sound of her footsteps and obviously tried to hide her presence from me. Then after she realized I noticed she was there, she held her breath and tried hiding. Tell you about your car's extended warranty? Oh my god. She wore a timid expression that would force one to take pity on her, but without a doubt she was tailing me. Stop. following me.
Oh.
Still glaring at Reina, I continued walking onwards. After I walked for a bit, she ignored my command and began walking again, so I yelled at her once more. I told you not to follow me.
But my house is the same direction.
Then walk ahead of me. I'll start walking once I can't see you anymore. I moved out of the way and waved my bat violently to urge her forward.
I'd like to go home together with you.
Making a pitiful expression, she meekly squeaked out those words in a voice she knew would cut into my heart. True, Yandere, if you can't be with me, then I'll just have to kill you. That agitated me to no end, and I knew it was a lie. If you wanted to go home together, then you should have called out to me. Now you're just blurting out random lies.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It seemed that the seething anger within me was written all over my face. Even without me saying anything, Reina understood the feeling inside. If you get it, then go. I swung the bat, urging her to walk again. Reina looked back and forth between me and the bat and started walking hesitantly, then stopped again. Go on, hurry.
I'm going. So please stop with the bat. It's scary.
Reina guarded herself while pointing at me and holding the bat. She may have realized that I wasn't planning on using this bat for baseball. I lowered the bat, but still guardedly opened the way for her. Go. There's no problem now, is there? There was nothing else she could do to protest. She passed by me timidly so as not to set me off. As I watched her pass by, she stopped completely after having barely moved at all. Hey, don't stop! Then a powerful gust blew past us, burying my face in dust. The dust got in my eyes and clouded my vision. While rubbing my eyes with my left hand, I swung the bat blindly, with the bat in my right, protecting the small opening I had presented. But Reina didn't even try to attack during that opening. Attack me? No. She hadn't budged an inch. I could tell from the sound of her fluttering skirt in the wind. As her skirt settled, so did the silence. And at that moment, the voice inside me immediately warned me of impending danger. I was caught by surprise. The smell of the air had changed. Without me realizing it, the air around me suddenly felt like a calamity was about to befall me. It was like the air had suddenly become invisible concrete, like Reina and I were locked in space. Reina didn't move an inch. Also unable to move, I stared at her back. Reina was the first to break the silence. Instantly, she altered her stance. I felt like I had just witnessed her shift from Reina into the other person who looks just like Reina. But the voice was the one I knew well, which filled me with a kind of bewildering pity. Carelessly, I felt relief upon hearing the pitiful voice.
Well, excuse me, but, can I ask you something?
Too shy to even turn around, Reina squeezed her voice out desperately, as she trembled. What?
Why do you have that bat, I wonder?
The question Reina asked was by no means unexpected. I can carry whatever I want.
But, you didn't have one up until today. But why so suddenly?
It's alright if I decide to do something suddenly, isn't it? Is it strange that I have a bat?
Because, Keiichi, you're not the kind of person to play baseball. It's weird.
I couldn't tell what kind of answer she was looking for, and I was getting tired of answering her. I just suddenly got the urge to play baseball. Is that so weird?
It's weird.
She answered instantly, and that annoyed me slightly. I just suddenly wanted to play baseball, and I wanted to practice my swing, so carrying around a bat, what's strange about that?
Strange. Weird. Definitely. Why was Keiichi-kun also?
Your ramblings are starting to annoy me. Is it so strange for me to have an interest in sports? I tried to sound a bit more threatening to the end of the conversation. Until my suspicions about Reina were cleared, I had no obligation to answer her questions.
I'm sorry. Don't get angry.
Reina still didn't turn around and spat out the words of apology one after the next.
Just one last thing. Tell me one last thing.
I don't feel like talking anymore. Hurry up and go. I yelled loudly at her, causing her to flinch like she had been struck. Seeing her in such a pathetic state caused my heart to ache sorely. But even though she was afraid, she stubbornly kept herself from moving. Before I was able to threaten her again, Reina asked her final question.
Why is that the bat same, too?
What did she mean by the bat was the same? I had no idea what she was talking about. What are you saying?
I mean, why is even the bat the same?
I don't understand what you mean. Say it clearly. Even still, Reina didn't turn around. After inhaling deeply, she screamed.
I mean, why is it even the same bat as Satoshi's?
Satoshi? Being... Huh? Upon hearing the name out of the blue, I became dumbfounded for a moment. By Satoshi. Did she mean the student who transferred out of here last year? No, that couldn't be. Reina had tried to cover up by saying that she transferred, but Oshi-san told me quite clearly he was missing. He was the student who sat in my seat up until last year. He was believed to have been demoned away by Yashiro-sama's curse. I didn't know the details about his disappearance. The aunt he lived with was killed the night of Watsunagashi by a drug addict, and not long after that he suddenly vanished and was now missing. That Satoshi and I were... What? My gaze fell to the bat in my hands. Could it be? Satoshi Hojo. It was a bit difficult to see, but that was what was written on the white tape at the end of the bat. I see. So this was Satoshi's bat. This was Satoshi's bat. Since nobody was using it, I bowered it. That's not a problem, is it?
That's not it.
The way Reina said that made me seem like this bat was something that could never be touched. Like it was some sort of offering at a shrine or a memento of the deceased. I could only stand there, perplexed and unable to respond. Reina continued speaking without waiting for a reply. Why is it that you're doing the exact same thing as Satoshi-kun? The same thing he did when it happened to him. Reina was talking about more than just the bat belonging to Satoshi. It was the same with Satoshi-kun. He joined the baseball team, but he didn't really like baseball. What does that have to do with me?
Satoshi-kun also suddenly started walking around with a bat one day. He joined a team, but he wasn't the type to play sports.
What about it? I closed my mouth before I could say it out loud. Listen carefully, Keiichi. Reina is trying to tell us something important.
Satoshi-kun also. One day he came to school all by himself all of a sudden. Just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day, he suddenly started practicing his swing. Just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day, he suddenly began carrying the bat around with him. Just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day he suddenly
what? Reina had swallowed her words. Reina's sudden silence brought a hush back to the surrounding area. It was then that I could finally digest the content of the entire conversation. She was saying my chain of actions was exactly the same as Satoshi's. What was the meaning of this? Up until just now, I'd forgotten all about Satoshi. I'd never paid much thought to him in the first place. Not only that, I didn't even know anything of what he'd done. My actions today would have been my own creation, after all the planning I had done. But they had been the exact same as Satoshi's? Then Satoshi, no, more importantly, if both Satoshi and I acted the same, there was a really good possibility that what happened after would be the same. Reina, that day, what happened to Satoshi? Reina knew. She knew what became of Satoshi. No. Forget about what happened to the guy in the past. Reina knew what was going to happen to me. Answer me, Reina. Satoshi, what happened to him? With that, I grabbed Reina's shoulder violently and forcibly turned her around and faced me. As I faced her, I felt a jolt travel through my entire body.
I told you, Keiichi-kun. It was the person that I didn't know. At least it definitely wasn't the Reina Ryugyu I'd been talking to up until now. The voice just now didn't have a trace of the trembling or emotion it had before. The amount of regret I felt by turning her around so carelessly was unsurpassed. That gaze had pierced like a cold needle. The smile on her face had invoked an image of having been carved by a knife. Chills went down my spine. My mind froze under a layer of rime. Both of Reina's eyes pierced through mine, leaving me unable to look away. As if it reminded me of the fear of that time before, Reina brought her face close to mine, so close I could feel her breath. Her face had filled the entire field of vision. Then, her sharply shaped lips grew even sharper, like the curve of a crescent move, and she grinned. I told you, Keiichi-kun. After a short pause, Reina repeated the same words again. Satoshi-kun, you see, transferred out. Transferred? Meaning what? What Reina meant must have been some new definition of transfer that I was previously not aware of. My throat and lips dried. I couldn't even acknowledge what I had just heard. All I could do was swallow down my own saliva. It would seem that Reina saw that as a nod. She pulled her gaze back spirally and stepped back 2-3 paces. As she did, my legs gave out and I fell to my knees pathetically. Reina and me on my knees underneath her emotionless smile. That had to be a very odd sight indeed. Seeing me in that pathetic state, she neither scoffed at me nor held out her hand. Transferred him to the afterlife? Yeah, exactly. Ugh. There was undoubtedly a metal bat in my hand, but right now, it was useless to me. It was like a fly caught in the web. Heavy sweat beaded all over my body. I could feel it dripping in my skin. But you won't, will you? Keiichi-kun. Reina finally released me from the cage of time after it felt like an eternity. But her question was missing something important, and was incredibly vague. Once again I swallowed hard, urging her on. Do what? What did she not want me to do? Transfer. Got reverse isekai into Pokemon? Oh my god. I got an achievement. It said, the pinch hitter, batter up. God, the names on these get me sometimes. Ugh, okay. Satoshi and I had what? All my well-planned actions throughout the day turned into have been nothing more than a reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Steam achievement? Yeah, Steam achievement. Satoshi, had he really been in the same situation as I was now? The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly, and for no reason, at least none that I had noticed. They planned to kill him? Then, fearing for his life as he got a bat to protect himself and carried it around every day to practice his swing? And then one day, suddenly, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course through my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards from the top of my head and soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still at whatever he transferred to? Was he the only one who could be able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it all ended up like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Thanks, Cushion, where Satoshi has bat. He got it from the baseball team, I assume. Is like what Reina was saying, like he actually went and joined the team first and then started carrying around the bat. So I think he just got it from the local baseball team that he joined. Before I knew it, I was at the front door. The frigid knob had hard to turn. Was nobody home? It wasn't that odd of an occurrence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the single key attached to the first sealed keychain. I stepped into the entryway just as I was about to take off my shoes.
A chill ran down my spine. Someone had entered right before me. Like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Keiichi. How do you know they're there, even though they're behind you? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There's no other reason. I'd hear that sound. That was the presence. Because I could hear the sound of them blinking. Keiichi Maibara, there's no way you could hear that. It was mostly instinct than anything else that was warning me of the presence. Common sense was telling me that this was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was nobody behind me. I began to ease my mental image of the eerie figure standing behind me. But at the same time, I asked myself, if there was nobody, then what was I feeling? As an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was nobody, then when you turned around, would you be able to accept it? I'd be able to answer all those questions just by looking behind me. But I didn't have the courage to even do such a simple task. Oh, right. I could try speaking. The person behind me might answer. It was a random thought, but I didn't care how I went about it, just as long as I didn't have to turn around. If I had calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that I couldn't have solved anything. Who is it? I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel the contemplating of their response. I felt it. There's no way I could be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. That time, I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of somebody inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to this current predicament in a scream. All the force of my body released from my lungs and through my throat, seizing all the process in my head. Surpassing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like the house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body to look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until that moment I turned around, until I brought the area behind me back into my field of vision, they were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in the empty space. It couldn't be. They were invisible. They looked like they weren't there, but were they actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. That emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from this bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state, heightened ludicity, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand, as if drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest attack to dodge. I remember reading that, from a book or swordsmanship or something. Ah! I brandished my will to fight. The afterimage of the amalgamation of the metal flashed as I swung from left to right, beating against the entryway. The bat slammed into the right wall, the tip rebounding violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. The door of the show's cupboard had split into pieces. Those two swings whiffled through the empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing that required. I extracted the bat from this cupboard that was embedded, and I screamed, and I spun the entire body around in a large arc. Ha! My scream shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with certain brutal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to have an impact. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy,
there but not there, dispersed. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat. The invisible enemy there but not there. Oh, I just read that. When I was certain the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way. Had it only been a feigned retreat and was now inside my house? Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence, but it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off, and at that moment, the tension drained from my body, and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, disbelief, all mixed together and began to flow through my body. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest. Exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room on the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head a little. After clearing my mind of all the idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition I dreamt up in a confused state, but I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Kaichi Maibara. Compose yourself. But no matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomenon, and without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? It had just one piece. When I asked who it is, they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation was right now as still unclear. Either I'd been possessed by a supernatural phenomenon known as a Yoshiro-sama's curse, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and they were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was still a mystery. If it was perpetuated by humans, that would mean that admitting it was Reina and the rest of them doing it. But it would be solvable. Oyashiro-san and the rest of the police, Oshi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest the enemy. But if it was a manifestation of Oyashiro-sama's curse, I wondered what would happen. Oshi-san had clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable. But as things as they were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrations were not human, he suddenly seemed quite unreliable. If I told Oshi-san this was the work of Oyashiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction, but it would go without question to that the void would expand rapidly between myself and Oshi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with, and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse or not, there is no merit into doing that. I better keep the facts of what had just happened at the door to myself. It would be better if I hadn't add that what happened here to the memo behind the clock. There was still ever so slightly possibility that I was actually confused, and that I thought I was composed, and I was just going to berserk in the entryway. How wonderful would that be if it was really just what happened? I would be able to refute Oyashiro-sama's curse. But if I denied Oyashiro-sama's curse, that would mean admitting that Reina and the rest were perpetrators. If I had said that Reina and the rest of them weren't perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oyashiro-sama's curse. Reina is part of Oyashiro-sama's curse or something, IDK. I mean, fair. By denying both of those, I would be admitting that I myself was losing it. The three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has actually happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But couldn't help but think. How wonderful it would be if it turned out that I was delirious and everything until now was just a figment of my imagination. I'm suspecting it's a ghost or something plaguing the town, and Reina is one of its primary pawns. Ooh. I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such a thing. Get a sip here. The phone rang downstairs noisily. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone. But since my parents weren't here, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs. Hello? This is the Maibara residence? Keiichi? This is Mom. I intuitively had a bad feeling about this. It was because I thought she was going to ask me to go out and buy some things. So I took the initiative. But I don't mind having instant noodles for dinner. There's still a lot of them. The other day we went out as a family and bought a whole case of cup noodles. I want to get a bunch of different kinds actually, but they refused since I knew really packs were expensive. So instead I got a whole case of the mega-sized pork and bone ginger flavored ones. Hey, that sounds fucking delicious, bro. But my parents didn't like strong flavors, and I didn't touch any of them. So the cupboards were still full. So you see, there really isn't a need to go shopping, right? Keiichi, I'm not going to ask you to go shopping. Both Mommy and Daddy have to go to Tokyo right now because of work. Huh? Right now? This was really abrupt. No, we're already here. We left this afternoon. It's quite a distance to Tokyo from Hinamizawa. Gunning it full speed down the highway would still take 6 hours. Dad has a license, but since he doesn't like the highway, they likely took the train. It would have taken longer. I'm thinking you might understand since you heard us speaking last night, but it has to do with your daddy's contract. Right now, things aren't going so smoothly. Now that she mentioned it, I did remember that they talked about the times his job prospects weren't looking so good. It does sound good, yeah. Pork and ginger, man. Daddy is really sensitive about these things. So if we leave things as they are, it will affect his work. His parents just dipping out so suddenly and for so long, right? Yeah. Or our son just confessed that, like, hey, if I die, blah blah blah. He's probably fine, though. Part of your father's particular fragile artistic personality. His emotions change as easily as the fall sky. You could also just say he couldn't take criticism. But something like that could be done over the phone. Keiichi, this is your father's job, so can you support him just a bit, please? Anyway, it's just faster to talk in person. So there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. And as their son, there was nothing more I could say once they started talking about work. We'll be back tomorrow night. Keiichi, will you be fine on your own? It's not like I'll die or anything. Keiichi, you shouldn't speak so lightly of dying. If there's something troubling you, please talk to us. I believe Mommy would be able to help you. Yesterday I didn't bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they are a little worried. But really, is there more depressed by the fact that nothing can be solved by telling them? I didn't plan on dying. At least not while I still knew nothing. I wouldn't allow it. I won't die. I won't. I'll survive even if I have to gnaw my leg off. Our son just informed us that he wrote up his will and testament without further explanation, so we're heading off to the next city over. Exactly. Yep. So I'll see you then. Tomorrow morning, make sure to wake up. And eat your breakfast. And don't forget to take a bath and brush your teeth. Yeah, I'll see you. The call ended just like that. Sometimes my parents went off to Tokyo for business meetings, but Tokyo was far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance. It never happened this suddenly. I couldn't say those circumstances didn't feel strange, or rather, unnatural. Anyway, I only needed to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone. Missing. Vanished. Looking back at the series of events in the previous 5 years involving Oyashiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was good that the only light on the floor was the house, and the room on the second floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone and this was their chance. First I ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned the TV on at a reassuring volume. Next was the study. I similarly turned on the lights and some music. With this, from the outside it would look like my parents were here. Once again I went to the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces of my mother wasn't there. It should be fine now. The garage. They hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to Okinawa Station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. This was not good. I panicked and rushed out to the back to close the normally open garage door. It should be fine now. I needed to get the paper. Mom always got the paper since they left in the afternoon. The evening paper was still out there. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it in the entryway. With this, for sure, this time, it should be fine. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that for my little freakout was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell. The bat was holding smashed it. Even so, just leaving it in this current state wasn't good. Wouldn't the car be missing a bigger indication they were gone? He did think of that, yeah. I remembered there was a broom and a dustpan in the closet, and I was going to get them. The phone rang again. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Oh, is this Keiichi-kun? Is your mother around? She's in here at the moment. Idiot, Keiichi Maibara. Don't reveal your parents are gone. You can follow up still, calm down, take care of it. I think she'll be back soon. That wasn't a good response either. Now they might say that they'll call again or tell her to call when she comes back. Then that's fine. It wasn't anything important. Well then, sorry for the bother. The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. That call was unfortunate in more ways than one. I'd have to deal with more telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such a poor improvisation. I needed to make up a good story and explain when my parents weren't home, but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making some purua and couldn't step away right now. That wasn't good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Well, that was going to be safe enough. Sorry. Nah, I'm pretty sure they know now. Yeah. I was thinking about it on my way back to my room when the phone rang again. It was like they were calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick up, but I knew I had to. They suspect my parents weren't here. I should have just taken the phone off the hook under pretense and didn't realize it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted the receiver. Hello? I stopped announcing this is the Maibara residence. I had no reason to be so kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. Gesundheit, thank you. Bless. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side was goofy and lighthearted. Hello, my apologies for calling so late. This is Oshi from the Okinawa bookstore. Oshi-san! Is that you, Maibara-san? Good evening. Good to hear you're doing well. Wait just a moment, please. I grabbed the portable handset and rushed up to my room. It was the same no matter where I was since there was no one else at home, but I wanted to be in a spot where I just felt a bit safer when speaking to the phone with Oshi-san. Sorry for the wait. How are things? Anything changed since then? Since then. When was that exactly? There was something about the brazen way he talked and rubbed me the wrong way. The last time I spoke with Oshi-san was 2 days ago. The day I stayed home from school, I met Oshi-san on the way back from the hospital, and we headed into town for lunch and had a talk. Oh man, it being Oshi-san was relieving. I wasn't fully expecting Reina. Yeah, me too, actually. Oi, okay. Then after that, Reina and Mion came to check on me. Whenever I spoke to Oshi-san, they always knew about it. It was like since the first time I met him, and today's phone call may well be found out by them as well. Hello? Can you hear me, Maibara-san? Huh? Yes, sorry. What did you say? I asked if anything's changed since last time. There wasn't an answer, so I got a bit worried. Not really. The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that happened. A lot of it baffling. But what should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it. Should I try asking? If I didn't ask now, I may never have another chance. This night, when my parents weren't home, I had no guarantees I would make it through the night safely after all. Well, Oshi-san, it seems that someone is after me. Really? It could all just be coincidence, but that day I missed school and was sick. 2 of them came to check on me. Which 2? Reina and Mion. They started asking about how I had lunch with you. What next? They left me some mochi. They came to visit, but there was a needle in it. Fortunately, I somehow didn't swallow it. I wonder if that had just been a threat? TBH, I don't think Reina and Mion actually know Oshi-san's name. They keep returning him as the big dude in the car. It's true. It's true. About the needle. It was just one of the common sewing needles you see all the time. There was a hole in the thread to go through. Not that, Mayabara-san, the needle. That's evidence. It could be used as proof if they threatened you. Where's the needle? That's right. That's it! I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed the mochi, I'd overlooked it in the terror, but the needle was a vulnerable piece of evidence. I had certainly thrown the mochi and the needle at the wall together. If it was there, then it would be on the living room wall. But my prudent mother had cleared that living room wall, and there was not a trace of mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched, running my palm along the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and desk, pulling up the carpet, then flapping it around, but I couldn't find the needle. Did my mom clean up everything without noticing it? It was just 2 days ago. I didn't know that day they had collected the burnable trash, but it was still in the trash bin in the kitchen. I rushed into the kitchen, opened up the lid of the pail, and poured out the contents. But even at a glance, I could tell it would be incredibly difficult to find a needle in the pile of this trash. I was looking for a needle in a trash stack. I know. I'll try running my hand through it. It was a bit gross, but I was looking for a needle. If I felt a small prick, I'd be able to find it. It was a pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking the pile of trash with my hand. Filth flew about, but there was nothing more disgusting than this. But it was about the time concerned with such details. I continued on for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but I was still on the phone. I shouldn't keep Oshi-san waiting for too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'd have to ask her if there was a needle. I hastily began scribbling on a notepad affixed to the refrigerator with a magnet. Was there a needle? I scrawled the words with a red pen. I then dashed back upstairs and had been keeping Oshi-san waiting for too long. Hello? How did it go? I couldn't find it. I was really overwhelmed back then, and I see. It would be great if you could find it. Keep it safe. That's right. The needle wasn't the only incident. I had to tell him about this morning with the car. Also, Oshi-san, that isn't all. Actually, this morning, Van was definitely aiming for me. I could say that without question due to the circumstances at that time. Did you see the license plate? I can search for it from here. Damn. I just flipped out yelling at him, but I didn't look at the plate. What failures on my part, the needle and now the plate number. I was so focused on protecting myself that I let some of the most important details slip out of my grasp. I punched my pillow, annoyed at how worthless I was. I'm sorry. I don't know how much more. It was a white van. Nothing to fret about, Mayabara-san. Anyone would be shaken up after almost getting hit. I guess all of this isn't a coincidence, is it? Needle trash. That note's probably gonna come back up later. Oh, definitely. Oshi-san started to hem and haw over the other end. I could imagine him folding his arms. Also, Reina is acting strange. How so? But Reina said on the way home today, asking why I was so much like Satoshi-kun. Now I could say it with confidence, that Reina knew what was happening to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than just him simply disappearing. Reina knows. She knows something regarding what happened to Satoshi, the kid who was demoned away last year. And what would that be exactly? Reina said, I was the same as Satoshi. She said something to the effect that the way things are going, I'll end up the same fate as him, Satoshi. Fate, you say? Exactly what kind of fate did she say would befall you? Transferring out, she said. Transferring out? Reina and Satoshi transferred out. So given how things were going with me, I'll transfer too. Oshi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly. Mayabara-san, that was probably some sort of threat, or maybe some type of warning. I thought so too. At that point, I started to think, would it be prudent to sum everything up that had happened until now as machinations of some human perpetrator? Or rather, the theory that being Reina and the others, I was left with Aoshi-sama's curse actually existing as the other explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Oshi-san, except Reina's strange behavior could be proof of either scenario. Whether it was Yashiro-sama's curse being real or everything being part of some conspiracy committed by all the villagers, Reina was involved. Reina had to know something. Reina was suspicious. But what exactly was Reina? I couldn't help but think that somehow involved in the prior string of mysterious deaths. It seemed to recall that Oshi-san had admitted that he had dug into Reina's past a bit. He was probably just downplaying it when he said a little, meaning he had actually dug pretty deep most likely. I wanted to hear about Reina. I wanted to know what happened in her previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Reina was somebody I should suspect. No, not that. I wanted to know the truth. Reina sus. Tonight I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I couldn't count on them, I had lost the security I felt I had just by my parents being around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they'd easily gain entry. There were no other residents close by than my Byra residence. No one could be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I had never felt such resentment towards my father's artistic temperament and the fact that he had built this house in such a remote location as I did right now. I wondered if I could still be here by tomorrow morning. So I had to ask, right now, because I had no idea when the next chance would come. Oshi-san, I have something I wanted to ask about. Please don't keep anything from me. Sure, ask away. Even though he was too far away on the other end of the line, that was the most reliable I had ever felt. I wanted to ask about Reina. What happened at her previous school? Actually, regarding Reina's... I noticed a sound that had been going on for a while now. Since I was focused on the call, I hadn't paid much attention at first, but then I realized it was the doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time when the postman would be making delivery, past any sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be good. Like my parents weren't home. I need to answer the door. Hello? My bar-san. Sorry. Someone seems to be at my door. I'm gonna go see who it is. A guest? I see. My apologies. Should we end this phone call? That would be a problem. No. I'll be back in a second. Do you mind if I just leave the phone on? It's fine. I don't mind. I dropped the handset in my bed, dashed down to the door. Reina with another story of Richie. Oh my god. Imagine. I had a hunch it was the lady who called right before Oshi-san did. In which case it would be one of the neighbors who's friends with Mom. I'll just say Mom isn't feeling well and went to bed. That would be the easiest option. It'd be hard for her to ask me to wake up my mom if she was not feeling well. The bell continued to ring at regular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang the bell that much, you'd normally give up and go home, wouldn't you? Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out at the visitor. A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside. I had prepared for this moment. I tried to escape by imagining the easiest person to deal with, one of my mom's friends. Good evening. With Reina. There shouldn't be any reason for Reina to come over at this hour. The timing also made me feel uneasy, because it was just as I was about to ask Oshi-san about Reina. I wish I could have chalked this up to mere coincidence. Oh, he did? But those unsettling words from Mion several days ago echoed back to me. There's nothing this old man doesn't know. Are you alone, Reina? Yeah. It seems that Mion wasn't with her, but that didn't change the situation at all. Why did you come? Hey, Keiichi-kun. I'd like it if you could open the door so we could talk. Can I come inside, I wonder? I wonder?
It was true that speaking through the chain door wasn't the right way to talk to a classmate, but at my house the chain has to be on at night. Don't worry about it.
Then it can't be helped, I guess.
Raina pouted rather sadly, but she kept smiling at least, and her effort to keep that smile was quite pitiful. Even though she was tugging at my heartstrings, I didn't lower my guard. As long as I stayed like this, even if it made my heart ache, my life wasn't in danger. What I really feared, more than the possibility that hoodlums would assault me if I removed the chain, was trusting Reina enough to remove their chain, and having my friendship betrayed. As long as the chain wasn't unlatched, even if it made my heart ache, I wouldn't have to deal with staying betrayed by Reina. Since I didn't seem like to remove the chain from her silent urging, she appeared to give up and trying to get in the entranceway.
Have you eaten yet, Keiichi-kun?
No, I haven't eaten. Since my mom wasn't here, dinner wouldn't be ready no matter how long I waited. I laid down when I got home, and I woken up by the phone. I didn't have a chance to eat since I used all that time talking. I was going to have a cup noodles in any case. I could just eat one whenever I wanted. No, not yet. What about it?
Good! Look here. I brought a bunch of dishes.
Raina held out a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth.
If I could use your kitchen, I could heat up the miso soup and the other things.
It's fine. You don't need to do that.
But there's a lot of tofu and vegetables in it. Does Keiichi-kun not like that type of stuff, I wonder? I wonder?
There's no way I wouldn't like that. I love miso soup with lots of ingredients. White radish, carrots, burdock root, potatoes, dense and fibrous root vegetables. Yeah, that miso soup looks incredible.
I also brought rice, so if you microwave it, you can eat it really quickly.
Without a doubt, rice needs miso soup. Stuffing rice down your gullet, slurping miso soup in between ravenous bites. Oh yeah, how wonderful it would be to be born Japanese. Also,
I made some more pickles. I made sansai pickles this time.
Before I had moved here to Hinamizawa, I scoffed at the mountain vegetables called sansai, but I was captivated by their charm the first time I tried them. Such a deep yet light flavor. The vegetables from the supermarket were tasteless and bland compared to these. If you had the desire of them, they were the vegetables for the uninhibited. To become an expert in such things as myself, you had first to partake in sansai. It was common knowledge around here. With the Ryugyu family's tradition, pickles were wonderfully delicious. No matter what kind of pickles they were, they'd go well with that fluffy white rice. Is she like trying to give him his last meal on death row? I mean, probably.
And also...
But wait, there's more. So delicious. It just seems so delicious. Farewell to my unhealthy self, who said he'd make do with a cup of noodles. Raina appeared to be in good spirits as she was offering such a delicious-sounding dinner. The stress evaporated from my gut, and the hunger reared its vicious head. At the same time, my wariness of Raina suddenly dwindled. Oh, fucking bitch, you better not open this door. Oh my god. Imagine, She might be trying to kill me, but she did offer miso soup. So... Rina confirmed, Flea May's here with your miso soup. But wait, there's more. Rina did say she was alone. It shouldn't be a problem letting her inside. Oh my god. Though, the possibility that was laced with poison still couldn't be ruled out. At that moment, a cold chill ran down my spine again. Couldn't understand why such a sensation had occurred just then, but the voice inside me was sounding the alarm. This happy Reina, speaking of this charming dinner, was dependent on one premise. Bro, this miso soup is to die for. Oh my god. This premise was tonight. Dinner hadn't been made in my house, meaning it was under the assumption that my mom, who should be making it, wasn't here. Any normal household, 7 o'clock would be around the middle of dinner time. If my mom were here, we'd be eating dinner around this time. The fact that she brought over all the makings of this meal at this time were inherently strange. Unless she knew. Reina. Did she? Did she know that my parents weren't home? But there was also a chance that this was a bluff. I had turned on the lights and a bunch of other stuff to make it seem like my parents were here. There was a chance that Reina was unsure if my parents were home. But I had to wonder. The laundry, the garbage, the evening paper, there were plenty of signs of them being hastily tidied up. It was hard to say that Reina didn't have a chance to determine if my parents were here or not. But there was no reason for me to confess that right now. I should try holding on to the fact that as long as I could. First of all, the chain was still latched. As long as I didn't take it off, Reina wouldn't be able to do anything more to me. I'm quite grateful, but dinner will be ready pretty soon. Huh? Is that so? Is that so? I know you went through all this effort and everything, but, well, unable to think of a good way to refuse, my words trailed off weakly. But some of this could work as side dishes, I think. I'm sorry, we have more than enough already. My mom always makes quite a few sides. So... Huh? You have side dishes? With a smile that bordered on cringe, I dodged her questions apologetically, but the feeling I tried to ignore began creeping up my back again. I spoke as if my mom was setting no dinner right now, but I didn't mesh well with the fact that Reina was saying. Reina was talking as if she was aware of some obvious fact, and that I was aware of it as well. So Keiichi-kun can cook! What did you make, I wonder? No, well, it's not that I... Reina had assumed out of nowhere that I had made the dishes. No, not so much that I had made them, but rather that my mom hadn't. Did you really make them? The side dishes? Did you, Keiichi-kun? It wasn't me who made them. My mom did. Nah, she's making them. Right now. See, I'm sorry, but I can't eat whatever you brought. Reina fell silent in that moment. At that moment, I felt that the light had suddenly disappeared from her eyes. How about I try guessing what Keiichi-kun's dinner will be? It doesn't matter what I'm gonna eat. Let's see. The conversation might appear natural at first glance, but Reina was firmly in control. It felt like she was being interrogated. Your dinner. I wonder, is it something that can be made with just hot water? Hey now, stop with the insults. I can't believe you belittle my mom's extravagant dinner like that. Tickets sold out. Full capacity already. It's that amazing. So very dead. I tried my best to put on a strong front, but I couldn't grip my teeth quite right. So instead I looked at someone who was borderline hysterical. But Reina showed no reaction whatsoever, even to that silliness. Keiichi-kun, did your mother really leave you dinner? No, you see, she didn't leave me dinner. She's making it right now. It's almost time for dinner. Reina had taken the assertion of mine that my mother was home and making dinner right now, and was completely ignoring it. I could tell that the more I panicked, the colder Reina began. You're about to eat death. Stop bluffing and just eat my poisoned food already. Hey, Keiichi-kun. At that moment, an uncomfortable chill crept into the gap of the doorway. Is your mom home? I wonder. I couldn't keep the charade up anymore. Reina. She knew full well my parents weren't home. But I've come too far to admit that now. Anyway, my parents were here and were having dinner soon, and that was the situation I had concocted. So I answered. I told her she was here. She's here, of course. I could feel the humidity drawing out from the surrounding air. Reina's eyes were becoming more frigid, piercing me with their livid glare.
Why?
Huh? What do you mean? I tried acting casual, but the facade was torn off me the instant I looked at Reina's eyes. That look, it informed me Reina's response faster than she could open her mouth.
Why have you been lying to me? I wonder.
I'm not lying.
That's a lie, isn't it?
It's not a lie.
Liar!
Reina's outburst sent a jolt surging through my body. Reina and I were still separated by a few inches, that slightly ajar, but still chained doors could afford. But despite that, I was still being cornered. My house, which I considered safe haven until now, had become more like a dark alleyway where no one could save me.
Shall I guess your dinner, Keiichi-kun? Let's see.
I knew now that Reina had already known that my parents would not be here tonight. But it was still so strange that it had come to this. Even if she somehow knew my parents weren't home, there was no way she could be able to guess what I'd be eating tonight. But Reina said she'd guess. How could she guess it? How could she know that it was instant
cup noodles? That's right, isn't it?
I was gonna eat. Wait. The cooking repertoire of a man who can't do housework is probably nothing but cup noodles after all. Looking at this statistically, it's the most probable answer. That didn't mean she was guessing it. Why does she have the same repeating words? Yeah, it's like a verbal tic that Reina just has.
I don't think you'll be full with just the cup of noodles. I think having rice and stuff will definitely hit the spot.
Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. This was just coincidence. Reina was just reading certain tells of mine. So the fact that she was inferring that I was thinking alarmed me. But it wasn't as if she was actually reading my mind. If it was being read, then she would be a demon. No, not a demon. Things like that, they couldn't possibly exist.
Do you like them?
Do you mean the noodles? No. Reina insisted the point that my answer was addressing was wrong. Her rebuttal was so short, I momentarily didn't understand the words she had spoken. Sorry, Reina. What did you say?
Huh? About what?
Just now. You asked me if there was something that I liked, didn't you? It wasn't long before I regretted how carelessly I'd pushed forward with that question. It was such a simple answer that why I wasn't able to comprehend it. She'd be surprised. 2 cups of noodles can fill you up. Rice would hit the spot, she says as he's giving him a death glare. It's not 1 cup of noodle, it's 2.
Pork bone and ginger flavor.
Oh shit, she knew what flavor the noodles were. I wondered how I appeared in the moments my mind went completely blank until the moment I was able to recover. As my field began to distort, slowly swirling in a counterclockwise direction, I lost all sense of balance. Why do you know that? I didn't even deny it. That was the type of the frenzied state I was in. How could Reina know even this? Not even caring as I smashed my head against the door, I fixated my gaze on Reina. But she didn't even flinch when she saw me do that. I certainly did buy them. I bought a bunch at once. I bought a whole case. How could you know that?
Why, I wonder? Quite strange, isn't it?
Isn't it? How could you dodge a question at a time like this? The chain and the door suddenly were no longer protecting me. How did you know? Why did you know? Answer me.
You bought them at the 7th Mart, didn't you?
A shiver ran down my spine. I tried covering up with an angry facade. Like I said, why do you know that?
I was behind you, following you the whole time.
What are you saying? I couldn't understand why she was saying that she'd been following me this whole time.
That's because Reina was right behind you. Keiichi-kun's back the whole time.
Like that night?
The night I was absorbed in my phone conversation with Oshi-san, I didn't even sense her being there, standing behind the door. Behind me, standing there, just like that. Bro, you gotta hear me out though. That flavor's to die for. When Keiichi was picking out noodles, I was watching the entire time. You picked out so many flavors, didn't you? Then your mom got angry. If you were going to pick out the expensive one, you should just pick one type, she said. Then Keiichi picked out the big box of pork and bone ginger flavored he loves so much, didn't he? I like it too. Pork bone noodles. But I can never eat a whole big bowl by myself. My brain was paralyzed, dulling my senses. It might have been a defense mechanism to diminish the fear I was feeling to the non-traumatizing levels. With the fear being diminished, the fog enveloping my mind was cleared away. Bro, it's so scary walking down the street evening listening to Higurashi. Nice. You get that vibe, that atmosphere. Then, I could understand what Reina was saying and started to pull the meaning behind her words. Even so, my fear hadn't subsided completely. It was like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, eyes closed so I didn't have to look down. It didn't actually solve any of the basic problems. I slowly took a step back. And as I withdrew, Reina advanced. So, Keiichi-kun, can you open this? We can eat dinner together. I'm sure it's going to be delicious, so... Okay? Reina's pale, slender fingers squirmed through the crack in the door one at a time, as if they had a mind of their own, and rattled the chain. If she had unclutched the chain from the door, the feeling of terror would have just exploded within me. But Reina didn't do that. She simply implored me to remove the chain. She was doing her hardest to light the fuse to pound my keg in my heart, trying again and again. Clatter, clatter. But it doesn't light. It doesn't light. Open up. Oh, sorry. Open up. Keiichi-kun. Please go away. I beg you, please just go away. Huh? How could you say something so mean, I wonder? Please go away. Go away. Go away. The powder keg inside me finally went off. No smoldering, it just exploded. I tackled the door. The force through the door had knocked Reina momentarily off balance. I couldn't hesitate there. I grabbed into the doorknob with both hands, planted my feet firmly, and pulled with all my might. But the slamming sound just desired didn't happen. I could feel a tiny, disturbing bit of resistance keeping the door from closing. The source was Reina's fingers. Each of those fingers wiggling, squirming around like tendrils of carnivorous plant through the crack in the doorway. It hurts! It hurts, Keiichi-kun! It hurts! It wasn't a harsh shriek, but more of a yelp that I was trying to keep back. Go away! Go away! Go away! I kept pulling the door with all my might. I didn't even realize that I hadn't loosened my pull on the door, or at least momentarily. Reina wouldn't be able to pull her fingers out, and that was why the door wasn't closing. It really hurts, Keiichi-kun! I'm sorry! I was just messing around! I'm sorry! It's too much! I didn't care one bit of her apology. No matter how much she apologized, it didn't change any of what she had done until now. It didn't change anything. It hurts! It hurts! I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I'm sorry! Go away! Go away! Go away! Reina couldn't leave even if she wanted to, because I had trapped her fingers. Reina's white fingers had become deep red, and they were no longer even squirming. I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I'm sorry! Go away! Go away! Go away! I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I'm sorry! Reina's apologies were occasionally twisted with pain, but like a broken record, she was intent on repeating it over and over. Go away! Go away! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! I pulled on the door even harder. Finally, Reina's fingers were somehow able to slip out from their imprisonment of the doorway. The moment that happened, the door closed soundly, and I could hear the thud of Reina falling on her butt on the other side. I locked the door immediately. I made a loud clunk, voicing my rejection to Reina. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keiichi-kun, I'm sorry. Open up. Keiichi-kun. Reina leaned against the door, apologizing profusely, and nothing else. After confirming that was sufficiently sealed off from her, I trudged away from the entryway. On the other side, I could still hear Reina echoing her apology. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Those pitiful words. They would be forever seeking my forgiveness. I didn't feel bad about it at all. But it wasn't out of sort of malice. I felt a sort of hazy sense of relief that I was able to escape from Reina. Before, Mion had threatened me in this doorway, saying there was nothing she didn't know. And just now, at the same place, Reina told me the same thing. My feeble attempts to disguise the fact that my parents were at home had served no purpose from the start. I should have just pretended to be out and not even opened the door. My meager plans hadn't helped at all. In Hinamizawa, it was impossible to outwit them. Even though I was on the other side of the door, I wanted to get as far away from Reina as possible. 1 step, 2 steps. With each one, her sniveling apologies became more distant. I sprinted up the stairs and dove into my room. As you would expect, I was finally no longer able to hear Reina repeating her endless apology. Diving into my bed, I was startled by the hard lump I felt. There was something in my bed? It was the receiver. I finally remembered. I was in the middle of a phone call with Oshi-san. Looking at the clock, apparently not much time had passed since I went downstairs. Could it be that the clock had run out of batteries? I had talked with Reina for so long. How did almost no time pass? But the hand on the clock, it was ticking forward 1 second every second, as usual. As I put the still warm receiver to my ear, time, which felt frozen, began moving again. Hello? Oshi-san? Sorry to keep you waiting. No, not at all. I didn't wait that long. It became apparent that the amount of time that had passed between myself and Oshi-san was different. Over the phone, I could hear an energetic voice from the sorts of program or something. It drove home just how far away Oshi-san really was. Reina came just now. Did she come to play? I wasn't confident that I could coherently explain the situation to Oshi-san, but I didn't need to right now. Right now I needed to talk about Reina. That's right. I was planning on asking Oshi-san more about Reina, but Reina's little visit had interrupted the conversation. What was the true and what was false? I couldn't tell. The one thing I knew was a single grim reality that Reina was suspicious. I might be able to figure something out if I asked Oshi-san about her. Up until now, I had regretted it whenever I was forcing myself to ask about things I was better off not knowing. But looking at it that way, you could say I'd hit rock bottom. There was no possible way I could feel any more regret than I did right now. No, rather, I wanted to know if there's anything beyond this that I would regret more. Forget about tomorrow. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility for something to happen tonight. I wanted to know everything I could. I was absolutely not going to die like this. Not without knowing anything. I definitely wouldn't. Regarding Reina Ryugu-san, I did a bit of digging. Yeah, well, it wasn't much. I understood that Oshi-san was talking in circles. A bit meant, I dug so deep it's hard to discuss it since you're her friend. I want to know everything from your research. I don't think you'll be interested in what I have to say, though. Oshi-san. I spoke as calmly as possible to Oshi-san, who was continuing to avoid the issue. And then I said it. I think Ryugu Reina is suspicious. Even in the past incidents where from Oyashiro-sama's curse, Ryugu Reina was involved. Do you have any sort of proof that makes you believe Reina-san is suspicious? The manner in which Oshi-san spoke became very firm. Do you have some sort of proof? That was him talking as a detective. I only have circumstantial evidence. I see. I could tell even over the phone how disappointed Oshi-san was. Pulling on the fishing line when he felt a bite only to reel in the bait. Disappointed, but ready to cast the line out once more. That's how it seemed. Oshi-san, you can't do anything without physical proof, can you? What I meant was, so you can't come and save me without proof. I stuck that barb in there. As Oshi-san loved to roundabout ways of saying things, he understood me just fine.
It's fine, Maibara-san. I'll protect you. That was not the least bit reassuring. Oshi-san was just using me to continue his investigation. I was just going to get killed, and my corpse would be an important piece of evidence. That was all I was to him. Whether I'm alive or dead may be no concern to your investigation, but it's all over for me when I die. Oshi-san went silent on the other end. That may have been too blunt, but I didn't care. All I needed to relay to Oshi-san was that I was currently in a very dangerous position. So please tell me. Tell me about Reina. Satoshi transferred out. Not too far in the future, I'll probably also do what Reina was called transferring out as well. But you won't be able to find my corpse. You haven't been able to find Satoshi's body yet. Alright, Maibara-san, please calm down. I was already suppressing my agitation, even without Oshi-san having to tell me. It wouldn't solve anything if I just continued to scream about my mistrust in the police. It would seem that I could only depend on myself and the bat Satoshi-san had left to protect me. Then at least I wanted to know what happened before Reina transferred schools. You're aware that this won't be very interesting, right? Oshi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Right now, to me, there's nothing that I'd find more uninteresting. Please. There are a few things I need you to agree to. Okay? Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? It might not be true? I don't understand what you mean. There isn't one main investigation for the mysterious chain of deaths in Hinamizawa. Each one is treated as its own individual case. Thus, Reina Ryugu has never been linked to any of the investigations. Basically, you see, this isn't an investigation of Reina done by the police, and it was an impersonal inquiry, is what you're trying to tell me. This will make things a lot quicker since you understand. All of it is from either phone calls or meetings and interviews, so they aren't corroborated. I'm asking you to take this all with a grain of salt, is what I mean. Do we have an agreement? All of it just from what you heard? Yes. My apologies. It's all my personal investigation, you see. That thing. Before you said you saw Reina's chart, didn't you? I'm sure I heard you say that. Oshi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line. I told you that too, huh? Please pretend you didn't hear about that. I didn't care about Oshi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if they were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire after all. Please tell me, Oshi-san. Understood. Oshi-san finally opened up those tight lips of his. It seemed that Reina lived in Hinamizawa a long time ago. She had moved to Ibakuri Prefecture after she finished elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows had happened. Then Reina confided to the doctor. It was Oyashiro-sama. This was all he knew. There isn't much difference between what I know and what you know, Maibara-san. Then what part did you investigate further? I didn't need to ask. It was the incident that happened just after she transferred, the incident Reina was responsible for, and what she divulged to the doctor afterwards, correct? Yes. After you learned about that, you started suspecting Reina and the others, didn't you? Yes, I did suspect them. So they're the ones after all? No, that's not what I meant by suspect them. Oshi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less reassuring. Then, who did you suspect? That it was Oyashiro-sama. Huh? That Oyashiro-sama's curse really existed. Yeah, right, well, Oshi-san's laugh was quite dry, certainly not the kind you would make when you want to join in. Oshi-san resumed the conversation about the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance, the course of events up until the start of moving into Reina's past. Just then, there was thunder in the distance, and a heavy rain started to pour down. It came without warning, Rain so heavy it felt like it could beat you down. I left the window in my room open a crack to let the heat out. The violet wind danced into my room, making the curtains fly wildly. What is it? Nothing. It just started raining really heavily. Sorry, please continue. I got up while still on the phone and closed the window. I said at the beginning it was an incident, but because neither the school nor the victims filed charges, the police were never involved. So you see, those involved were very reluctant to talk. Regardless of there being a victim who had one eye beaten so badly he had permanent damage, it could have been the school or possibly some sort of individual who made arrangements to keep this from going public. Also, the psychologist was very strict about the professional ethics. Hello? My Baro-san? Can you hear me? There was a figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Even in the torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe. In this shower, which more resembled a waterfall, droplets of water dripped down from their hair. Just standing there, both arms dangling at her side. In one hand, a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth. Her eyes focused on my room, focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew on in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. What could she be eating over there? How could it be that this time I was more enthralled by Reina instead of the shocking developments that were being brought to light by Oshi-san? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. Then I wouldn't have noticed Reina, nor would I have noticed that. Reina's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something. She was repeating something. But what was it? What was she saying? To me. What was she saying? And why was I, right up against the window, fixated on her? Hello? My Baro-san, can you hear me? Hello? I'm sorry. My Baro-san. I'm sorry. 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 Hello? My Baro-san? What's the matter? Even in this torrential downpour, Reina was still apologizing. The other self inside me drew a certain hastily with my right hand, blocking the view of the outside. But even doing that, Reina's relentless apology still reached my ears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. I'm sorry. 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 Damn it. Why did I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive. I won't forgive. My Baro-san, if you can hear me, then please respond. Hello? New tips. Yay! We made it to the end of chapter 11. Alright, let's read our tips, of course. New tips. There we go, at the 7th mart. The 7th mart was bargaining supermarket with food and alcohol. What's this, Keiichi? So many. There's no reason for you to get all those different kinds, is there? I flopped all the different colored cup noodle bowls in the cart. Cup noodles had gotten so elaborate recently, and there was a bunch of different types. I wanted to try each of them at least once. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. Keiichi, buy them in the big case, it's cheaper. Dad faltered. Well, I had a feeling that it'd end up like this. Dad knew there was no point in him butting in. Then I'd only get one of kind. and get bored with it. I was resisting as a formality. I had already given in sign what cup of noodles to get. If you can't pick, then Mommy will pick for you. You don't have to rush me. I quickly searched the callous noodles for what I wanted. Pork bone and ginger. Large cup? Hey, Keiichi, you can get more of a normal one? If I let Mom pick, she'd decide on the safety and get soy sauce or salt flavored. Pork bone's good. I don't want a big bowl of tasteless stuff. I remember insisting that the noodles I picked were the right kind. In this frozen memory in time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So, I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through the field of vision, I couldn't see Reina. I rewound the situation, searching, but of course I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying at me from a blind spot? I grew through the sound of presence again, looking. I could sense other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they please. There was probably nobody looking over this way or no one trying to get behind me. Not here. Couldn't be here. Probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even when I wasn't on my guard. I smiled weirdly at the thought of using a vague word like probably right before contradicting it with definitely. Then I paused in my mental replay as a chill ran down my spine. There was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. That was a terror unlike any other. If a presence would really manifested behind me, I would definitely have turned around to check for it. But the world had moved on, and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightened shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around the store searching for a case of noodles. Running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom. But there was a presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way I could see what it was. Realizing it now after the fact was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box. Tip-tap. But listening to that moment again, I could hear footsteps other than mine going pit-pat every time I stepped. Tip-tap, 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 pit-pat, 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 tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat, tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. While I was running, the sound of those bare footsteps going pit-pat were right behind me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remember it. I didn't think I heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. That's why I didn't turn around. In that moment, the pit-pat of those footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run away any faster, and I had to run at that time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right at my back. Since I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. That's why it made no sound. That was all. At that time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking to my parents. I was just standing there. This was undeniable, and yet I heard it. A pit-pat. That shouldn't be. If it took 3 steps, that followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? There was no sound other than that. At that time, the entire world had gone dark. A sudden darkness. It was the end of a reflective journey, and I was tired. I wanted to end it. Someone turn on the light, except my body couldn't move, as if it was sewn into that moment in time. Pit-pat. My past self's hair stood on end. That's impossible. Now that's just breaking the rules. I hadn't moved, so you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move, so you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules. Pit-pat. Yet the sound echoed in the darkness again. The hair on the back of my neck perked up at the end. It was so close, it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move, like how the presence was moving behind me? I quickly realized. I could move. It's just that I was so scared I didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time, but I needed to turn around immediately, as if my entire being was trying to force me to stop. It began to administer a pain like a needle being struck into every pore. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. A scream I was unable to vocalize. Ow.
I turned around. At first, I wouldn't understand the meaning of it. What? What is this? The situation in front of my eyes, it was like a mouth biting an apple, slurping the juice. The way you would do with an apple, my mind had been eaten. It began to munch down, slurping the juices because I was like an apple. Meaning, what was in front of me was... Oh my. And then split personalities are other tip here. I see it in the movies quite often, but what is it exactly? Multiple personalities through an escapism. Multiple personality disorder in the form of an escape. Correct. The exact mechanism is not fully understood, but is believed to be a type of defense for the brain to retain mental stability. Hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, is it not? Is it also the form of multiple personality disorder? I wouldn't go that far, but broadly speaking, one could infer that. It's something that occurs in us all. Does a split personality occur when one cannot tell which reality it wants to escape? That's difficult to say. There are some who agree with that, and some who disagree. There is no consensus. Then, is the occurrence of multiple personalities still a known phenomenon, something not fully comprehended in the psychiatric field? Unfortunately, that is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in the future and research. But it's sort of cool having a split personality. What kind of people get split personalities? Recent studies find that people who develop it, or rather, those who are more susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed or may have an abnormal mental development. Some of they say childhood abuse increases the chances. Speaking of which, Person A here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad. Person A has 7 different personalities. Let's watch a video of him. Right after these commercials. Hey, we got another Steam achievement. Detective of the Onikakushi. You have finished reading all tips. Well then. Yeah. Woo! There's that chapter! Ba ba ba. Ga ba ga. Spooky scary sounds. Frick that sound. Yeah, I feel that. Oh man. That was a long one. Save. I have it here. This music's nice. But yeah, we did it. Only one more chapter, supposedly. If I'm understanding my sources correctly. Yeah, one more chapter. The finale. Oh man. Oh man. It's gonna be interesting. That was a long one. Too bad we have to wait a week for the final chapter. It's true. But you'll have all week then to try and have your theories. It's so interesting. Good. Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it though. You have a week though to mull over your theories and ideas and copium doko. We're over copium. Now we're just going full blown hysterical. Gotta wait a week to find out exactly how he gets murdered. Hey, what if he doesn't get murdered? There's always that possibility. Maybe he's the insane one. Probably not, though. Yeah, I'm a little behind, so I don't have the schedule ready for next week quite yet, but I'll be going up sometime today, along with the waiting rooms for all the streams that we'll be doing this week, next week, however you want to say it. Do you guys, for you guys, when you think, like, week, does your week start with Monday, or does it start with, like, Sunday? Like, what day is, like, day 1 of the week? Inconceivable. Like, I always think, like, Sunday is, like, day 1 of the week. But I don't know, it is a lot easier to schedule with Monday being day 1 of the week. Take your time. Thank you.
But yeah. So wow, we've even been streaming for like 2 hours. These usually don't go that long. My opinion week starts with Sunday. Jose says Monday. It was all a dream and he wakes up in the hospital with no... Not murdered, just transferred. Yeah, exactly. Transferred. Oh. Either way, the last one's gonna be a wild ride. Monday? Okay, you said Monday too? Okay, okay. It's gonna be a wild ride. I wonder how long it's gonna be. Like, this was 2 hours. The only other time I've gone, like, a chapter reading has gone anywhere near this long was Hakuoki, and that was, like, the chapter 1 of it, so that made sense. But oh man. Whew! It's gonna be nuts. But other than that, I think I'm gonna sign out here, guys. I hope you guys have a good night, good evening. I'll see you next time. Tomorrow. I don't know what we're doing yet tomorrow, but I hope you'll be there for it. I gotta find a new anime for Keiichi as the protagonist. For him to get isekai too, exactly. Alright. But thanks everybody for coming. I'm glad you're enjoying it. We'll do the finale next week for Higurashi Onikakushi. It's called the weekend, so it ends with Sunday. Ah, I see. That's a good way to think of it too. Yeah. Alright guys. But for real now. Bye bye. Thank you for coming.